Then now the JSON Stringify method can serialize primitive JavaScript values. Here's my boilerplate code, and in this lesson we want to look at how we can convert primitive JavaScript values to JSON string. And we are going to be looking at primitive values such as numbers, boolean, and none directly into a valid JSON text string. So let's look at an example that talks about this. So let's move into the scripts part of my code. And inside the scripts part, let's make a variable and give it a name of maybe none. And inside it, so let's use this as the value of our variable. Let's make another variable. Let's call it my JSON, which is going to represent what we want to use, the method that I want to use to convert this primitive value into JSON string. Now that we have this, we can go ahead and then output it to this screen. And now you should see 0.00123. So now, let's now break down what's just happened in this example. This example shows a variable being defined, which is this first thing that we have, that contains a number that is written in scientific exponential notation. So this simply represents 123 times 10 raised to power minus 5. And you can see that the output of this is what evaluates to 0.00123. So it passes this active numerical value into our JSON Stringify method, converting it into a plain text string, which is this. So this is a plain text string. And so this text string is then displayed directly on the screen. Now, why we usually use JSON.Stringify method to convert massive objects or arrays? It is actually designed to convert any valid JavaScript data type into a string. So that data type could be a number, it could be a boolean, it could be numbers, and it could be null. So as long as it is a valid JavaScript data type, it can be used to convert it into a string. So if you add it a simple number, a boolean value of either true or false, or even a null value, it will safely transform that value into its corresponding text representation according to JSON standard notation rules. So there are rules that guide this JSON string, in the sense that if we have something like false or true, so that is, if we have a boolean value for whatever it is that we're trying to check. So what JavaScript will try to do with the JSON Stringify method is that it will safely transform that value into its corresponding text representation in order to match the JSON standard notation. So it's a one-stop utility for preparing absolutely any piece of data for its journey across a network or into a storage vault. So let me revert this back, as we are not dealing with boolean value, but instead we are dealing with a number here. So this variable here that we have here is what creates a native JavaScript number using the scientific notation. So this expression, like I said, automatically shifts the decimal point 5 places to the left. So this is what that represents. So it's like when you have something like, it's like having something like this: 123 times 10 raised to power, minus 5, and it will give us the, so it's just shifting this 0 5 places to the left, which will now evaluate to this numerical float value of 0.00123 that we have. And then we also have this part, which is where the serialization is happening. So the serialization engine evaluates this number and translates it into a standard base 10 text string, giving us what we have here by this one injecting it into our DOM and then display it directly on the screen. Now, here are a few key takeaways from this lesson. Number one, JSON Stringify method handles primitive data type either string, numbers, booleans, or null, just as efficiently as it handles complex objects or arrays. So the way you use the JSON Stringify method to handle complex, objects or arrays is the same way you can use it for any valid data type in JavaScript. And you can see that this example just demonstrated a simple data type, which is just a number, and how we were able to use this method alongside it in order to generate our desired output. Number two, notice how scientific notation is automatically calculated, the E-5 that is at the back of the number, and normalized into a standard explicit numeric string format when converted to JSON text. So this so this 1 to 3 times raised to power -5 is a standard base 10 numbers which JavaScript understand perfectly and automatically calculated and normalized it into a standard explicit numeric string format. So, and you can see that the output that we are getting has been, formatted and normalized into a standard numeric string format, and it is not any kind of mathematical formula or something that cannot easily be passed or understood by the browser. And lastly, unlike object keys or text string, numbers and booleans serialized by JSON.Stringify method do not get wrapped in extra double quotes inside JSON string. So if you look closely at what we have, normally when you use JSON Stringify for object or array, the output always gets enclosed in a double quote. But in the case of this example, you can see that because we are working with numbers, the output is not getting wrapped in that extra double quote inside the JSON string. And you can see that this is a direct number and not something like this. We are not getting something like this and say 00.00123. So we are not getting this. Instead, we are getting a direct number that is not getting wrapped inside any extra double quote, and it outputs directly a clear number and not a string version, which makes it possible to allow JSON.Patch method to recognize them as a number later. So let's say you want to use another method with them, it becomes easy to recognize this as a number and not as a string later. And this is the reason why numbers and booleans don't automatically get enclosed with the double quote that trail JSON strings in JavaScript.